It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs.
Good morning and welcome once again to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Tony. We've got a lot to cover on the show today. First, we have a word of advice to the self-managed homeowner associations out there. Remember to cross your T's and dot your I's. And we'll talk about that with an article, something that came up in Missouri in just a little bit. Also, what do you need to know in order to become the smartest renter on the block? If you remember, an organization called Homeline Inc., a tenant advocacy group, says they know the answer and are sharing that information in a new book by the same name. And the director of that organization, Mike Raw, who's been on the show before, will be back with us again to talk about this new publication. And talking about things that keep coming back, Senate File 926. And if folks, you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about that there was a litany list of things that some legislators said that they wanted to see changed in what a homeowner...
In HOA law, yeah.
Yes, in what a homeowner associations could and could not do. We thought a lot of things had been kind of clean, taken away and gone back to committee. Well, they've come back with a few things, much better. But there's still some concerns, and we're going to talk about that on the show.
All right.
But, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, we want you to call with your questions and comments, 651-289-4488.
And with that, let's begin with property management in the news. And today the article is that Missouri Supreme Court throws a lifeline to an HOA, and this is what we were talking about earlier as self-managed associations. Make sure you cross those T's and dot those I's. Here's what we mean. In a homeowners association, they must have the power to impose liens to collect dues and assessments for common expenses. Because, as most people know, an HOA is unable to, if they're unable to perform their those duties that they have an obligation for the homeowner, then there is trouble. Often there is the only legal authority that an association has to be able to make sure that things are maintained, repaired, that violations are kept up, are because they have the power to fine, and that fine can become a lien against the property, and then foreclosure can take place. Well, here's what happened in Missouri. There are a number of self-managed homeowner associations, and I'm assuming they are, but I suppose they could be professionally managed ones as well. There have been a number of them who have not taken the time to register with the state as a corporation. And that is a seemingly small task, but a very important one.
It's an annual task.
Yes,
At least
is.
in Minnesota. I'm assuming in Missouri it is too.
Oh,
Every
yes.
year, your property manager goes online in Minnesota and re-registers your association as a nonprofit corporation in the state of Minnesota.
In Minnesota, they've made it real easy. You get an email, you go online, you take a couple minutes to re-register, and it is important. Yes, corporations are required to re-register with the state where they reside each and every year. And the purpose for that is because if someone has an issue with that corporation, they want to know who it is that they need to talk to, who it is they need to direct communication towards.
They need to know who to contact. What's the contact person?
Exactly. But here's what's happened in Missouri. They say that Missouri HOAs have been considered dissolved by operation of law. And what they mean is they failed to file the annual report with the Missouri Secretary of State. Because this HOA has failed to do so, they are considered
dissolved
and extinct. And that is not the case.
And it also said that if it stays in that status for 10 years, right? If they forget for 10 years to register, then it's dissolved forever.
Yes.
The state of Missouri said that about corporations in general, right?
And so here you have a situation where a homeowner association, probably self-managed, unaware maybe that they need to do this yearly filing, after 10 years have now found out that the association is not even recognizing them.
They're not a legal entity anymore.
and dissolved. Just think of the chaos that could.
Well, it says they no longer have the right to collect fees. They no longer have the right to impose liens and enforce the covenants.
And this was something that was decided at a lower appellate court and upheld that would be the case. But however, the Missouri Supreme Court finally had an opinion just recently to clarify the defunct HOA. That may seemingly seem to be dissolved for more than 10 years. They're saying it still has the power to assign its rights, to collect, to assess, to impose liens, and enforce covenants. And so the Missouri Supreme Court saying, no, that's not the case. This is very important because obviously something that was just a clerical error could be very disastrous. If you have homeowners who are really upset with the collection of dues and now they do a little fact-finding themselves and find out that just for failure of this, Tony, after 10 years that they say, I'm not going to pay you my dues anymore, that would just run havoc.
Yeah.
And so we're glad to see the Missouri Supreme Court put this in place and help clarify this.
Commonsensical and practical decision.
Yeah. Do you know this happened to an association in Minnesota as well?
Yeah, tell me about that.
There was a couple years ago, we were asked to put together a proposal for management. This was a self-managed homeowners association, and they had always been self-managed, and they decided that they were looking for management proposals. Well, one of the things that as I was writing up the proposal, they said, oh, by the way, our name is this and not this anymore. And it was pretty close, but it wasn't the same.
They had changed their name. Okay.
Later to find out, this is exactly what happened. They had not filed for their annual registration.
Okay.
And so there was another builder who had built another association close by and took that name.
Now, I'll throw in here that new businesses, when you're trying to come up with a name for your new business, often you go on the state website to look at corporate registrations to make sure that no one else is using that name.
Exactly,
correct?
Because anytime a corporation is formed, they have to do what's called an assumed name, and they have to do a check to see if anybody else has that name.
For example, if I want to name my grocery store Kowalski's, I would go online and I would look and see that name is already registered and being used by someone else, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
But people can be very close, but not exactly the same. But here, another association in a close vicinity had taken on the name of this association. And here's the kicker. We also found out when we were doing the proposal and met with the board, they also said that not only had their name been taken legally from this other developer who developed one, but here a few years later, Xcel Energy had owed that association a good chunk of money that they were getting back in a refund.
Okay.
However, out of clerical error, they saw that this name was assigned to another association. They gave the check to the other association.
Under that same name.
But
at a different address. And because this new association had the name, I bet they cashed that check.
Oh, you bet they did. And they went to the association saying, that check was ours. And they say, we don't know anything about that. Xcel gave us a check, a refund for our association. I don't know anything about that.
Oh, dear.
And then they went to Xcel, and Xcel said, we took care of it, right? Well, it finally got resolved. But talk about the headache. And so it just goes to show that it is seems like a very small thing, but a very important one. And that is, if you're a self-managed association, you should make sure that you are re-registering the corporation, the association, each and every year to make sure that they know who to contact and where.
And that's at the Secretary of State, isn't it?
Secretary of
You can
State.
go online to Minnesota Secretary of State and just follow the prompts to register your association every year.
Yes, an important thing to do. So that is our word to the wise to the self-managed today, and that is property management in the news, and was brought to you by Pest Control Services. Remember, when you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, you want to call someone who's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. Give owner Greg Keener a call at 952-894-9748. That's Pest Control Services. Well, we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to become the smartest renter on the block.